Hello.
Hello?
There he is.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
I can.
Oh, perfect.
Was trying to find my headphones, but I couldn't, so I'm just like, oh well,
Oh,
it's
well.
fine.
Yeah.
They're probably not even charged anyway, so they I
Well,
don't
that'd
know.
be a disaster anyway.
Me and technology are not good friends.
No, I get it.
So how's it going?
It's going all right. Things are as good as they can be at the
Yeah,
moment, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well,
but it's very nice to connect this way because I know it's been kind of a long time that we've been
yeah,
talking about it, and
yeah,
so it's great.
yeah. I mean, it kind of, I don't know. I ask a lot of people, and I don't really like. I don't want anybody to feel pressured. I just kind of put that idea in somebody's head, and then whenever it's the right time. I mean, I know you've been going through a lot of stuff, but you
Yeah.
seem to have really gone a creative direction with all that.
I've tried. Yeah. Um,
Well,
I mean,
it's a
mostly.
process.
It's a process, and mostly that's kind of the way I've always really dealt with things. I luckily, and maybe unfortunately in some cases, I have a very, very rich inner world. So a lot of times when life kind of collapses, I keep telling people that I feel like every area of my life at the moment is hanging by a thread.
Right,
But kind of my way to cope and to deal with everything is to retreat, like
right.
as much as I can, and to completely disappear, and then kind of allow whatever comes out of it to come out of it. you know
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes it's good, sometimes it gets me into trouble, but that's life.
Well, that's why, like, I know there's some people where, you know, people always want to give advice or cliche or whatnot, and everybody deals differently. Um,
Mm.
so there's no like proper way to grieve.
Right. Which I'm
Like I
learning.
don't even.
Yeah.
I went into a bubble. I think when my mother died, like for 3 months I was just in a bubble and I didn't come out.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's really hard that, like, when you're not somebody who is always in a bubble, when you
right,
start to retreat, everybody gets very concerned, and so you have to kind of dodge all of their questions and
right,
their concern. And it's like, I know that sometimes when people retreat and withdraw, that can be kind of concerning, but this is how
right.
I'm dealing with it. So luckily, everyone has been really great about it. But I don't know if you had that experience also, where it was just like, guys, I need a minute, like, please.
Well, for me it was weird because I moved out to the South in like 2001. My mother died like a year later, and
Oh,
so I only had my ex-boyfriend here, and so I didn't really have anybody else around me really.
right.
Um, but he just took care of me and let me just kind of fall apart for a bit.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of red flags that I didn't see until now,
Well,
but
sure, of course, hindsight.
like after I got back from the funeral and everything, and I fell apart in the Atlanta airport, and I was like, I was living in Chattanooga at the time, and he lived out in Atlanta, and I was like, well, I can't go home right now, and he's like, oh, you can come over here, but like he wouldn't like come pick me up, so
Of
I had to
course.
take a
Great.
taxi. And I'm like, huh, like my
Just
mother is
another
dead, but okay,
getting knocked down another peg.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think with age is wonderful because then you learn to. I see red flags a lot more, and I don't want to wear them as a scarf as much.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Uh,
wonderful. I love that. Yeah.
yeah,
I
or
love
it's like,
that.
oh, it's a parade or it's a fair. Yeah,
I I think when I was younger, I got like a really crash course in trusting people and letting people in because of just the trajectory of my life since I graduated high school. That
hmm,
now I kind of feel like I am so focused on discovering and working on the red flags within myself that I'm
right,
kind of becoming blind again to red flags in others.
Oh no.
And in grief, everything is like magnified by 10. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, my God, I could write a book on the red flags
Yeah.
in myself and the people around me,
Right.
that would be multiple volumes.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of times when I get annoyed with other people or I see things that are red flags, I feel like I respond to that because there's something within me, like I'll just look back and go, "Oh, well, I do that." So that's probably why.
It
And
bothers
it's
you so
annoying
much.
because
Yeah.
it's mirror.
I mean, it really is a great way to learn about yourself, It's kind of being thrown into a pressure cooker of just life
Yeah.
lessons that you didn't ask for, but you're going to learn anyway.
I feel like I encounter a lot of people that, especially some younger people that are like me when I was their age, and I go, "Oh, progression. That's wonderful."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you poor thing. Like you have no idea what's coming for you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny because the last episode I recorded, I didn't have anybody booked, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna read like stuff from my journals."
Mm.
And I'm reading stuff like around when I was with my ex and around the time my mother died and all that, and I was just like, all the anguish and everything, and I was like, "You had no idea what you were in for. There was so
Yeah.
much worse coming."
Yeah.
Um,
So much worse, but also so many better things.
yeah,
I remember one thing that my mom used to say to me all the time whenever I would just really fuck up in life. One thing she would always say to me is, like, you cannot let this be the worst thing to happen to you.
oh yeah,
Um, and I remember when my grandfather died, her father died, I was very close with him. She was very close with him. And, she said, it's really hard right now, but it can't be the worst thing that ever happens to us.
right,
So it's
right,
always this idea that like things are going to get so much worse. There's going to be so many bad times in your life, but things are also going to get so much better. And there's going to be
yeah,
just as many good times that this, as bad as it feels right now, will not be
yeah,
the worst thing to ever happen to you.
oh
And
yeah.
it's just,
And
you just keep going through that again and again and again.
yeah, and it's hard to see. I mean, like I've had so many issues with work and all that. Like I was working in the film industry and then the strike happened and then I've just been pivoting like nobody's business and like things have improved and I've gotten different job offers and things have gotten better and better and better, but then also then I'm like, well, my personal life is kind of lacking and I'm just like it's one of those things. It's like it's also hard to enjoy the good things when they're happening because I feel like I'm always concentrating on the other stuff that's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a real problem I have. I have a real like problem with accepting that things are good enough. So it's
Yeah,
like no matter how high I'm riding, or things are going well, to me there's always something else to do. Like there's always another step to take.
right.
Nothing is ever good enough. And
Yeah,
I think maybe being aware of that is pretty good because then you're not, you really need to learn to appreciate things as they happen because then when they're gone,
oh yeah,
and boy, have they come and gone.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, it's just one of those things in life.
yeah. It's very hard for me to just be in the moment and be appreciative because I'm always like, okay, what's next? And I'm looking towards the future and other things. And
Yeah, yeah,
um,
preparing.
yeah, well, because I'm always waiting for like the other shoe to drop. So I'm
Right,
just like, okay, how is this going to turn to shit?
right. And
So
but the thing is that is funny is that no matter how much you think you're prepared, no matter how much you think you got a handle on it, the other shoe always drops. Like it's
oh yeah,
always coming. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That you would think eventually you would learn to just let go and just
yeah,
enjoy it while it's happening, but
yeah,
you never learn. When my mom died, I which is still very strange saying that out loud,
oh
but
yeah, yeah,
when she passed away, I remember when I was younger. like a kid and into my teens, my greatest fear was something happening to my family because we're a very close knit family.
Right.
And my greatest fear was something happening to anybody in my family. But I always prepared myself because I knew it was inevitable that one
Right.
of my
Right.
parents would pass away. And well, both of my parents eventually, but that I made this plan in my head of what it was going to look like and how I was going to react to it and how I would recover from it. And my God, did that go all out the window? I mean,
Yeah.
not even close to it. I thought that I would be able to handle it with this kind of, mysticism and
Yeah.
stoicism and acceptance and Jesus Christ, if put me through the ringer that I'm still kind of getting over. And I mean, I know it's only been like 4 months, but
Right.
it's hard.
It's weird no matter what, whether it's 4 months or in my case, it's been almost 22 years.
Which is, yeah, unfathomable to me. That one time, that one day,
Yeah.
there will be a time where it's that far in the past, and it's like,
Right.
it seems unfathomable.
Well, and also what's weird too is like, there are three kids in my family, and it's interesting how each of us deals with it differently.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely,
like my
absolutely.
brother, sadly, I think he's got a lot of regret and a lot of guilt attached to it.
Mhm.
I'm kind of in the middle. And I'm not saying that my sister just doesn't feel it, but like, I think we operate in different speeds, and we're also, different ages. So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
um,
It's the same situation here. I have an older brother and an older sister. I'm the youngest,
yeah.
and my brother, for the last 8, 9 years, has lived in London.
Mm.
So he had, I really don't want to call it the privilege of distance, but he had the
Well, no, he got used to not living there
right,
so it was almost like he was separated,
right. He was kind of detached from the whole thing.
Right, right.
My sister is going through her own struggles with her little family also. That
Yeah,
there's a lot. Whereas always, the three of us, I've always been the most sensitive one. I am very much the black sheep of the family. I'm the one that has always done things my own way and
yeah,
all that. And my mom and I were very close. And as soon as I heard that she was sick, because it was like it came out of nowhere. There
right,
was no warning sign. She
yeah,
went to the hospital because of COVID.
yeah.
She was having difficulty, and then they said, "Oh, hey, it turns out you have stage 4 metastatic breast cancer."
Mm,
And and then within 2 weeks she was gone. But when I heard, I dropped everything, and I
right,
spent every waking hour next to her.
yeah,
So I think, and I mean, I was with her of the moment of her passing, and I think that because of that, I have had a much more difficult time than my brother and my sister
right,
had,
yeah,
because I think they have appropriate boundaries with it, you
yeah,
know, whereas I was there for the thick of it, the down and dirty of it, and
yeah.
yeah, it really, really, put me through it.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think with me, I mean, I was there the moment my mother died. It was weird because I was gone for a year. I moved from California to Tennessee, and so had I
Mm,
have known that it was her last year on the earth, I would have, probably not moved.
of course.
But I had those stupid love blinders on, and I
Well,
think my
it's
mother too,
photo.
like yeah. I think my mom, she was very much one of those people. She didn't want to worry people, so she never really told me how bad it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but she was diagnosed with she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it was like 98, 99 or so. She was diagnosed, and she died in 2002.
Okay.
So it was quick after that. But yeah, she was
Yes.
diagnosed with stage 4.
It's
Um,
horrifying how quickly everything changes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just like I remember them saying, "Hey, you need to," my family saying, "Hey, you need to come, it's happening." And I was just like,
Yeah.
at first I said no, because I
Yeah.
wasn't sure, because I mean, my father died when I was 2, so I never experienced death properly.
Right. Right.
And so I didn't think I could handle it. And I was like, I can't. And then I did. And it was weird because it's like I felt like I held it all together until I got back home into the Atlanta airport, and I had a freak out and just, lost it. But
Mm.
it's weird because it's like
Mm.
when it happened,
Sounds
it
right.
was say what?
I mean, that sounds about right. That sounds like exactly like how that happened for me too. Like this kind of denial, and then calm and collected, and then just a complete breakdown, like a
Yeah.
complete, once the dust settles, a complete,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because the moment it happened, it was very calm, and I just was like, I had my wits about me for some reason. I remember looking at the clock, and I'm like, they're going to ask about time of death. I need to know.
Yeah,
And it was just, it was because I was prepared. I was making coffee. I was going to stay up with her all night. I got there at like 9 or 10 in the morning, and she died 9:15 that night.
ooh,
So, but
my goodness.
um, and for a long time, I was convinced that I was the one that like helped her along, because I just remember, she was a nurse and she had nurse friends, and they were like, "Oh, you should probably give her some Ativan, whatever." I was like, "Cool," and I didn't feel like I was really the right person to do it, but I did it anyway.
Yeah,
And
well,
I just remember feeling the weirdness of like I had given her that, and then she went into a coma, and then she died, and I was like, "Oh my god, I killed her." I know I didn't,
yeah,
but
right, of course, yeah. Oh, yeah,
so I don't know, but it's just so yeah. I was gonna stay up with her, but I mean, when it happened, it was very peaceful. Of course, after that was a total shit show.
yeah. Well,
Um,
there's a blessing in it being a blessing, for lack of a better word,
yeah,
for it being so calm because, I was so like wonderfully delusional during the 2 weeks from when we found out she was sick to when she passed that I thought, it's cancer and she just needs to get treatment. Like this will be fine. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, and then even the day she passed, she was very aware and she was talking and we had lunch. And then she just kept
Hmm.
saying that she was tired.
Yeah,
And I just thought, you know, her breathing was a little shallow. And I was like, oh God, she's dehydrated. Like she hasn't been drinking. And I like kept that in my head, even as the ambulance came. I was like,
yeah,
oh, she just needs fluids, you know?
yeah,
But
yeah.
really, all that happened was that she fell asleep, and I'm so
Right,
grateful because I've heard horror stories of people in their last moments, and I'm so grateful that it was so calm and,
right.
peaceful. And then, yeah, my dad went to the hospital, and when he told us, I was like, what? No, like that's not what was supposed to happen. What are you talking about?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, but yeah, you know,
Yeah, I don't know. It just, I mean, and like I said, the three of us, it was so because like my brother just like freaked out the minute it started happening, and me and my sister were just kind of there watching what happened, and then my sister left, and then it was just me like in there with her, and I don't even remember, like time just started like slowing down,
yeah.
and you just have no idea of like what's happening, or it's that moment that you go into the bubble.
It's the craziest thing. It really, and like the things that like you choose to start worrying about in the immediate aftermath makes no fucking sense at all.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I remember just thinking like the most pressing thing on my mind was that I had to clean out my fridge. Like that was like it
right,
became like a fascination that I ended up getting a new fridge.
right.
Um, because it just like I don't know, it was just fucking bizarre. And it was like this kind of like momentary insanity that
Yeah.
like took over me.
Well, it's
But
like a protection device. It's like your brain or your psyche or what have you just
yeah.
kind of kicks in and you go on autopilot.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Of course. Of course. I've learned not to judge it, you know, because
Yeah,
those weird moments still come every now and then. And it's like, just go with it because
yeah,
either way you're going to. It's just whether you're doing it gracefully or you're doing it kicking and screaming. Either way,
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm weird. I think I did a lot of my kicking and screaming in private because and sadly that's just how I was raised. Like we didn't really make a public affair out of everything.
I don't
So,
I don't know if I know how to do anything in private, to be completely honest with you.
well, I've
um,
gotten better. I mean, definitely. I've had tantrums in public and it feels better, I think.
yeah. Well, I just think, especially when you're going through something as universal as grief, I
Right.
just think it helps so much to be and I mean, part of what I do is being very open and sharing and living very transparently and,
Right.
vulnerability and all that. But I just find that I think that if I didn't have my writing or creativity in some way,
Hmm.
I don't know if I would have been able to find a ladder to get out of it.
Right.
I don't, and I mean, I say get out of it, I mean the worst of it because I'm still
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah.
But I find that if I didn't have those outlets and if I didn't have people saying kind of me too to me,
Right. Right.
I don't know if I would be able to really navigate it. And, I'm still struggling to navigate it, but there's been so
Right.
much of it that has been helpful through not hiding it and not being
Yeah.
private about it. And like
Right.
I said, I really don't, my whole life I've been very outspoken and open that
Yeah.
it just felt natural.
Right. I think for me, what helped the most was just, either talking to like my siblings or people who had gone through it because I know people want to help and they come from a good place, but it's really hard when people are suggesting how, you should grieve or this is how you do it,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
people who haven't gone through it and then, insert cliche here. And that always annoyed me. So that's why I was just very picky and choosy about like who I shared it with or who I talked to it about
Yeah,
with.
it's very annoying, but thankfully I've gotten good at discerning,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what to engage with, just through, life experience. But there are so many people. It is really wild when you're grieving, the amount of inappropriate shit people say to you.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
it is really quite appalling, and it's hard because you do know that they're not doing it maliciously, but it feels so
Yeah.
malicious. I excuse my language. I don't know if
Oh, of course.
okay.
I've talked about getting fucked on here, so it's
Okay,
fine.
great, 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 great. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Because again, the filter thing. As
Yeah.
I told you
There,
that normally when I record things, there's somebody on the other end going, dude, can you just like roll back a little bit?
yeah, no. Like I've actually had to tell my siblings, I'm like, if you decide to ever listen to the podcast, these are the episodes you should not listen to.
that's that's how I feel about my writing. That it's like,
Yeah.
we don't need to discuss it. It doesn't need to be a thing.
Oh yeah.
Just
Yeah.
take it for what it is.
Oh no. There's an unwritten rule with my siblings. My sister's like, I don't care if you sleep with men or women or whatever. You're my brother. I don't want to hear it. I'm like, exactly. Thank you.
Exactly.
I would like to think that my nieces and nephews just happened. They went to the Cabbage Patch and there they are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, my siblings do not have that privilege, um,
Uh,
because they're very supportive of what I do,
yeah.
and
Right.
they are very, my family is very, nothing shocks them. Nothing is
Right.
um, taboo. It's just things that we talk about and things we don't.
Right.
So I think, my siblings, you know, they read my Instagram captions. They see my Instagram post. I think that they just go, okay, Tyler's just being Tyler today.
Yeah.
And it's fine, you know.
But they're not on your close friends list, are they?
No, they're not.
Oh, no.
No, they're absolutely not. No, but you know what's wonderful about that on Instagram
Mhm.
is that the a lot of the people on the close friends filter are genuinely my close friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, are
Yeah.
genuinely people that you know, all of my good friends, everybody, um, because again, it's just one of those things where I just think people know that's Tyler. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
who he is, and you know, which is why I'm really happy that social media has those filters, because there are times when you really do want to express yourself, but you
Yeah.
don't want it on a uh, you don't want the opinions of people who don't know you, you know,
Right.
and you don't want the bullshit of people who don't know you. Sometimes you do. Sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, you have to kind of invite the wider discussion, you know, but
Hmm.
I'm really happy for those social media blocks, because, and also too, because I very spontaneous in things I share, that a lot of times, like 15, 20 minutes later, I'm like, hey, you know what? That wasn't a good idea. So I delete it, and then it's like, okay, but it's okay because only like my best friend saw it.
Yeah. I know
You
I've
know,
done that
and
on
she's gonna see it
accident.
anyway. So
I've accidentally posted before stuff that was supposed to be on close friends, and I didn't, and I was like, "Oh shit!" and I just
oh
had to
god,
delete it immediately.
I
Like,
I haven't done that, but I have accidentally added people to close friends
oh
and
yeah,
that like shouldn't have been on there, and just being like, surprise.
right,
You know, but I've gotten better at that. I don't think I'm as untethered as I used to be, you know.
uh,
And maybe that just comes with age, but I think now it's far more I'm trying to think of a good word, but for lack of a better word, I think it's far more like intellectual now, if that makes sense. I
yeah.
cringe saying that, but
No, no. I mean, it
you
makes
know,
sense.
yeah,
It's like, my idol, Madonna says,
yeah,
um, if you're provoking just to provoke, it's like there's got to be something. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but there's got to be something behind it. Just doing
yeah.
it just to get a reaction. What's the point?
Which drives me crazy. You know, I always say to people that you would never see me posting like a gym selfie, you know,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah,
like a um you know, like a very flippant mirror selfie or things like that. And there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not morally
yeah.
opposed to them or anything, but it's just like, you know, you can't have it both ways. You know,
Right.
unfortunately, I wish you could, but
Yeah,
you can't have this kind of flippancy in how you express yourself and then, you know, cry victim when it is
yeah,
taken a certain way, you know.
yeah.
But then again, I just feel like everything that I post is taken a certain way and I can't help it, so whatever.
Well, I mean,
Pay no attention to my nonsense.
you can't choose how people are going to take things, and it's just I tried. I think in especially my 20s, even probably in high school, I think a lot of it, I tried to control the narrative, and I came out when I was 13, and everybody knew anyway. But then I would try and be just, very outgoing and funny and sexual, and much like my idol. But then a lot of it carried on to later in life, and it was really about trying to control how people thought of me and saw me, and if people got too close or things got too intimate, I'd steer it in a different direction.
Yeah,
And now I
I
feel like I'm less worried about. I don't care if people see who I really am. I think a lot of people don't know who I really am because they see like either social media or they have this idea or they see me at parties or wherever. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm really kind of boring. I'm kind of shy. I'm anxious. I have a lot of a lot of depression and issues. I'm
Yeah,
not like
hey,
this
join the club.
wonderful like ball of yay that they all
Yeah,
think I am.
right. Yeah, and it's a really interesting uh, line to cross. Is that I say that to a lot of people that what I share, what I write about, photos or whatever it is, it's always to me very carefully selected. You know,
Right.
and very carefully. Another word I cringe at, curated. Um,
Oh no, I
because
like I like the idea of curating though. I
yeah,
mean,
me
it's
too. But now, like everybody uses it, that it's become kind of, you know, like, oh, I curate my life, and it's like, no, you just
oh
post a
yeah,
photo of your dog. Like, stop. But which is fine too. But I everything is so carefully selected and planned that I
right,
do feel that no matter how hard I try, no matter what I write about, there is this kind of expectation of when people meet me in real life or when they even just like talk to me on like social media and stuff, that they always come away from it a little bit disappointed because like I think that they're expecting this like manic depressive hypersexualized gay man, and
right,
what they get is a very boring, you know kid from Pennsylvania who
right.
has no real uh well, not anymore, wildness to him anymore. You know what I mean? And
I mean, I think you always have it. I think it's there. I just think that there are. I think it. What's the word I'm thinking of? I'm like generates. No. I don't know. I think it progresses. It goes different places. I suppose. Like
oh, absolutely,
I
absolutely,
feel like definitely like wild in my teens and 20s and 30s is far different than wild to me now in my 40s.
absolutely,
um
absolutely.
I think it just it takes shape and it I still can't think of the right word that I'm thinking of. I keep thinking degenerate, but I'm like that's wrong.
Well,
But
it
yes I
evolves.
am.
It because there are certain. I mean, I've had. I mean, I have lived enough lifetimes to be good for a while. Like Jesus, from when I was a teenager, because like you, especially in terms of sexuality, because I came out when I was in sixth grade,
Oh
and
wow.
I didn't even come out. I was asked. Like I remember someone asked,
Oh
and they were
yeah,
just like,
similar, very
"Oh,
similar.
yeah," and I was just like, "Yeah, I am." Like I'm very gay, and they
All
were like,
right.
"Oh, okay, cool." And it's interesting because growing up in middle school and high school, as far as I know, there was just me and maybe like one other kid that was out, you
Yeah.
know? So, what you were saying earlier, I really relate to how you kind of became like a caricature of yourself, like being,
Oh yeah.
hypersexualized and,
Yeah.
and all that. And what's really weird, and this is such a fucking privilege that I hate kind of talking about it sometimes, but I don't remember in high school ever being given a hard time for being gay. Not to my face, at least.
Right.
And I don't know if it was because I weaponized it like so intensely that people felt like they couldn't hold it against me. And they said plenty of other things about me, but
Right.
um, I just don't remember ever being given a hard time about it. So I think having that kind of privilege, um, as a young gay kid, when I graduated high school, and maybe even my senior year of high school, I like rebelled so fucking hard
Yeah.
against this bubble that I've created for myself, that I mean, by the I always say that I lived hard and fast, and then at the old age of 24, on my 24th birthday, or 23rd birthday, because the details are blurred and we can't remember, me and my friends can't remember exactly which one it was. I had like a complete nervous breakdown, like a complete just, you know, um, and that was because I was forcing myself to live so hard and so fast.
Right.
I went to New York and I was, taking up modeling gigs there and going to parties. And I quickly realized that one of my greatest assets was, this sounds so arrogant, but my looks at the time
Hmm.
and my mind, you know, that I could really kind of get what I wanted, you know. Uh,
Right.
and of course, when you're a young person and you are being given almost everything, it's going to
Hmm.
end in catastrophe.
Oh yeah.
That's the only way it goes.
Yeah.
And for me, it really did. It really
Yeah.
did. Yeah. So my life has just been a series of tragedies and beautiful moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Same.
feel like I went off on a tangent there.
No, no. I mean, no, not at all.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because that's very young to be living so hard and fast. But I mean, I
Yeah.
guess if you realize it, and it, if I guess better that than living your whole life like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I think it's a double-edged sword, because I
Yeah.
do feel like it is very young and that I wish I had slowed down. Like there were many situations that I put myself in that no early 20 something should be in, you know.
Right.
Um and there are times where I wish I had slowed down and enjoyed being a kid more.
Oh yeah.
Um but then there are also times where I'm just really glad that I did that, because I mean, the experiences I have had, I think, really rival those of people who are twice my age, you know.
Right.
And in a way, I wouldn't have like really amazing source material, for what I write. Uh,
Right.
and I also wouldn't have gotten the help I needed, you know,
Yeah.
because for most of my life, I had, severe depression, um,
Mhm.
that I never would have gotten treated had I not had a breakdown.
Yeah.
Um, and I wouldn't have, right now, I'm like the healthiest that I've ever been. And I would have
Yeah.
never gotten here if I didn't have those intense experiences. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, a double-edged sword. And also, there is a sense to it all of like, if we only have one shot at this at life, at the end of the day, what does it all really matter? You know, what
Right.
what I did and how I lived, as long as I can look back on it and be at peace with it. You know,
Yeah.
and for the most part, I am. But there's still a few things that are just like, why, why did that happen to me? You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I just wish that I wasn't in such a hurry to grow up, because I think that happens a lot of times when, um, young gay kid, and I grew up in a very, religious Baptist family. And so I, I couldn't wait to get out, and I couldn't wait to get away from all that. And the town that I lived in was farming community, and it was, we moved there in 87, and it was not an accepting place. And so I
mm-hmm.
think I was just ready to grow up and get out. And, I just, to quote Madonna again, she always said that
Mm-hmm.
losing her virginity was like a career move. And I feel like same,
Yeah,
because
right,
I just wanted to be an adult, and I wanted to grow up, and I wanted to
right,
get out. And I wish I would have slowed down a little bit, because I feel like I was just in such a hurry.
yeah.
And I
That's
mean,
so
but
yeah.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, right. I mean, well, I mean, exactly. And you are who you are. I mean, it sounds so trite and so cliche, but like you are who you are because of those lived experiences.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really happy that I kind of, I mean, when I was really young, and again, I'm the youngest of three. And so for a lot of my life, I know a lot of people say that usually the youngest gets the most attention and things like that. But for a lot of my life, I always felt like I was competing with
Oh yeah.
especially my brother, who is 6 years older than me. So, and when you're
Yeah.
that young, it's basically like a different generation, you know?
Right.
Like we had nothing in common growing up. He was listening to like metal and I was like firmly a Spice Girl. You know what I mean? Like we had
You
very,
still are.
I know I still am,
You're
which is funny
sporty,
now
right?
because I think my brother now, we laugh about it, is now, I mean, he doesn't listen to the Spice Girls, but he is now, I think, more open to things that I was interested in when I was a kid than
Right.
he was when we were kids. But, you're kids and your brothers and,
Oh yeah.
it happens. But because of that, I always kind of like, if I made it a point that if my family was going one way, I was going the opposite way.
Right.
If they were doing something, I had to do the opposite.
Yeah.
And because of that, I really did develop this like super rich inner world that, you know, really protected me in many ways and really set me up for, you know, I think to be able to work my way through a lot of things. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I never felt like I was completely abandoned or on my own,
Yeah.
even if it was really only myself that I had to count on, if that makes
Right.
sense. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, you win some, you lose some, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's for me, like what, because a lot of people, they always wonder, like, why I'm into Madonna, or it's not just a gay thing or whatever. But
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, but kind of too, because like she was the first person who was out there saying that I'm not a freak. It was fine. I could be myself. And I was first introduced to the gay community through her.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so, and that I feel like there were a lot of times when I feel like that's all I had. And I mean, not even just her, but it was music and it was Tori Amos and just all these
Yeah,
amazing artists that
yeah.
I mean, I think I was 15, although I don't know if you ever have this uh, thought process, but I always think that everything happened at 15, even though it didn't. Like, I have to step back and go, okay, wait a minute. Like, your brain just wants to say, oh, I was this age.
I was, yeah. I know. I think 15 for me then in that sense would be like 12, 13.
Yeah,
Like I kind of feel like I stopped. Like my interests have not changed since I was like 12 years old. Like
yeah,
I haven't really progressed much in terms of
yeah,
just like what I enjoy and things like my tastes and things like that. But
right.
yeah, but
However
15,
old I,
sure.
however old I was, I think it was freshman year in high school, and they had this thing, Performing Arts Day, where just like a talent showcase or whatever.
Yeah.
And as an adult now, thinking about doing that and the songs I chose, because I did it a couple times.
Sure.
The first time I did it, I did Silent All These Years.
That's wonderful.
I know, but it's like I look back on that and I'm like, ooh, that was like, I had like my hand up. I'm like, see me, notice me. That was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then another time I did Bad Girl and I was like, oh God.
Oh, that's a
I
deep
know,
song.
I know.
Yeah. That's
So,
yeah. Wow. Good for you. I did Mamma Mia by ABBA at my
well,
talent
of
show.
course you did.
Yeah, but
Oh wait, don't you have video of that? I
I
can't
do have
remember.
video
Yeah,
of it.
you
Yeah.
posted that before.
Yeah. I just saw it for the first time last year. A friend of mine who was in my class, who was also in the talent show, she and I were the only ones in our grade who were selected
Oh, that's
for the
amazing.
audition. And her mom filmed it. And I just emailed her and I was like, "Do you happen to have like my performance?" And she was like, "Oh my god, we watch it." Like, yeah, because at that time I was trying, like, my goal in life was to be Robbie Williams, Noel Gallagher,
Oh,
Damon Albarn.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to be a front man in a band,
mm,
but I also loved ABBA. So
yeah.
I decided to combine it all in that performance. So I'm dressed like Liam Gallagher and performing the way only a young gay kid could perform.
I know.
Yeah,
God bless you.
but I wish I had done something cool like Bad Girl or something.
Well, and it's weird because it's like I didn't think about it until I got much older, and I was like, "Shit!" I'm like, "That was a cry for help,"
It
and
was a
okay.
cry for help, but also very badass.
Well, yeah, that too, but it's just like, especially sign all these years, and I think about all
Yeah,
the,
well, yeah, of course.
yeah. I mean, Bad Girl was probably more badass, but
Yeah, but signing all
uh,
these years is definitely more of a. There's more urgency to it. I feel.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so it's kind of wild, but
yeah.
yeah. But that's, I mean, that's
Good
what
time.
I feel. I definitely feel that music is why I'm still here and I'm still alive. I think music has gotten me through, and it still does. I mean,
Mm.
I'm
Are
obsessed with making playlists and
yeah,
finding new music, and
yeah. Are you
um,
one of those people like me that gets made fun of by your friends because you have a playlist for every single possible situation?
I don't think I get made fun of, but I
Oh,
definitely
all
do have a playlist for everything.
right.
Like I'll like a boy and I'll make a playlist, and then it'll piss me off, and then I'll make like an
Playlist.
angsty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm the same way. I have like but I mean it's even more kind of obsessive than that. I have a playlist for like rainy afternoons
Oh
until
yeah,
6 p.m. and then like a
yeah,
playlist for like sunny mornings in the car or outside. Like I my playlist section is just very intense and very kind of like obsessive in a way.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean I get it. Music
Yes.
is important, so I mean I don't think mine go quite that
As
depth,
far.
like like times of day, but
Yeah.
I definitely have like a rain playlist, and I have like a I made one called, I think it was Gays in the Brightest Colors, which was like a happy poppy, queer list. And then I have one called Gays in Gray, which was just very like somber and
Oh, there you are. Okay.
um, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have my moods, so I have to have a playlist to fit each mood. And it's funny because now my top most listened to songs are very like it's very sad girl music.
Oh no.
Well, no, it's fine.
It's
I mean, it's just
yeah.
I'm currently coming off of being into a guy that probably wants nothing to do with me, and it's just one of those like I liked him, we slept together, and then it's like that was it, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But one
I
of
don't
those
know.
wonderful experiences. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
That were
just
also
almost wish
very
that like I just wish that I wouldn't have known that he was like interested in that way, and then would have just like gone on.
yeah, right.
But
Of course. But again,
but
hindsight, that little
yeah,
bitch. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But then it made me all angsty, or as my brother said last night, he's like, "Yeah, your posts have been really Alanis Morissette." I'm like, "What's?" I said, "I've always been a little Alanis Morissette." Thank you.
Always been a little Alanis Morissette. Come on.
Yes,
Yeah.
most
My only
definitely.
tattoo is a little dedication to Alanis Morissette. So
Which what reference or
it
what is it?
well at the time I was going through I was getting certified as a yoga instructor and
Mm,
I wanted to do it right. So I was really studying like Hinduism and the Indian culture around yoga and all that. And I was inspired, it's kind of like a, triple meaning to get the sign on the thank you single cover that says thank you.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
On my wrist. So it's, you wouldn't know it was Alanis Morissette until I told you. But,
Right, right, right.
that was part of it because Alanis is you know, one of my number ones. And
Yeah,
it was a very important time in my life. So it was just a nice way to honor it, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Alanis album.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a masterpiece. Although,
Yeah.
you know, I I I have a lot of unpopular opinions, but whatever. I find that, Junkie is, of course, it's a masterpiece. I mean, the fact that she wrote that coming off of Jagged Little Pill is just insane, you know.
Right.
And it's weird and it's wonderful, but I also think, and so many people disagree with me, that Flavors of Entanglement is just as much of a masterpiece as Junkie, but just in a different way. And it's not as weird.
Oh no.
It's more accessible. I know that, but
Yeah.
just the themes and
Yeah.
the production, I think it's a masterpiece, and I don't like how often people neglect it.
Is is that the one with underneath
Yeah,
and no, I love that. I
yeah,
think Moratorium is probably my favorite on there,
there's
or Straight Jacket.
great songs. Great
Oh
songs.
wait, Tapes. Tapes. I
Tapes
lied.
is a
Tapes is
great
my
song.
favorite.
There's a B side, "It's a Bitch to Grow Up," which is fantastic. It's not even on the album, but
Yeah.
the to me, one of her best lyrics is the during the chorus for Underneath, where she says, "There's no difference in what we're doing in here that doesn't show up as bigger symptoms out there." And it's just like
Yeah.
that sums up the whole album for me, and I just think that that is such a beautiful perspective and such an interesting way of looking at your identity and your character and the
Right.
shit you're going through and how it shows up in the macro, how the micro shows up in
Right.
the macro. That,
Mm-hmm.
to fit it into a, pop song is just insane to me, brilliant to me. And so I think I will fight for Flavors of Entanglement.
I'm with you. It's a good.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, but it is in the top.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it has to be, especially after So-Called Chaos. It has to be in the top.
I don't even really remember So-Called
Exactly.
Chaos. What was on that? Was that the one with everything?
Everything, 8 Easy Steps, Knees of My Beast.
Oh, I do love Eight Easy Steps, and I
Yeah,
Live
I mean they're good
Unsexy.
songs. I find it very hard to be critical of Alanis,
Yeah.
because I like so much of what she says resonates.
Oh yeah.
Um, but there are certainly hits and misses. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah. So what can you do? It's the same with Tori. When you have
Yeah.
an artist whose catalog is that vast,
Yeah.
there's going to be some misses. You know.
See, and what's interesting is that quote from underneath. It reminds me of uh, I don't even remember what episode. I mean, I guess it's neither here nor there. But
Mm.
the show Ally McBeal.
Mm.
There's this part where um, I think it's like her ex-boyfriend's wife, and she's like, you act like, your problems are bigger than everyone else's, blah blah blah. And she's like, well, they are because they're mine.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, yes.
Yes. Absolutely. I had, to kind of bring it full circle, I had a conversation recently with a friend about grieving. And I
Yeah.
said to her that it was like, I'm kind of getting annoyed with people, like with my friends, because I feel like when we're talking, they don't want to share their problems with me because they think that because what I'm going through is so monumental, and it is,
Right.
that they kind of have no right to complain about anything. But it's like, but
But you
your
need
life is
that. You
still
need
your life.
something, and you also need to hear about other things, and you
Right.
can't just like zero in and only talk about that.
Right, exactly. And it's like your problems are still significant because you're experiencing them. You're not
Right.
experiencing my grief. You can
Right.
experience it with me and you can hold space for me, but you're not
Right.
experiencing it with me. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that and I love you for it. And it's so sweet of you to be so considerate, but like
Yeah.
I need to know too that life goes on. That like the
Yeah.
world didn't stop because it feels like it did. And
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to know that like your problems, like that fuck boy you're seeing is still fucking up. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
still want to know about that.
Right.
And it can get very frustrating. But then I
Oh yeah.
also know that I need to take responsibility too for how I react to things, because there are times when people are talking to me and I'm just like, yeah, let me tell you about my fucking day,
Right.
where it's
Right.
like, okay, but you can't project that onto somebody because they're not experiencing it, they're
Right.
not. And of course there can be empathy and there can be understanding, but the anger that I was having could damage relationships that are very important to me,
Yeah.
that it's kind of just realizing how what's going on inside of you is affecting your outside world. uh,
Oh yeah.
so
Like for probably 15 years, my mother was obsessed with Christmas. She
mhm,
died around Christmas, and so like for 15 years I was Scrooge. I was the Grinch.
of
I
course.
did not really have much to do with it. I just didn't want to deal. And then I realized that I was bumming everybody out. And it's like, I feel like maybe 5 years ago or so, like I just went like headfirst into Christmas and scared everybody.
Mm.
But I was like, this is not really honoring her, and I should celebrate it
uh,
and embrace it.
well, that's
Um,
wonderful, and I'm glad that you had that because I am struggling with that a bit. That
yeah.
I feel like I'm not honoring my mother the best way I can be because I'm avoiding so much of what she loved, you know?
Well, you'll get there. You'll
Yeah,
get there.
that it's like a whole other level of guilt where it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want what I shared with her to die with her, but I can't
Right.
really take it on right now.
Right.
Like I know that the next time Tori goes on tour, it's gonna
Hmm.
fucking because I took my mom to one concert on every tour since I got into
Right.
Tori. And I don't know if she really enjoyed it or not. I don't think she was that, she liked
But
Tori.
it was something you shared
Right.
together, and it
Yeah.
was a moment.
Yeah. That it's like, now it's just like, I don't really have an interest in going to concerts, you know?
Yeah.
And thank God for my sister because she's taking me to see Alanis Morissette in July. Uh,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have gotten the tickets on my own
Yeah.
because there are so many things, and
Yeah.
I don't know, you know.
Well, you just have to give yourself time and space, and it's amazing how time, I mean, it doesn't heal it. I mean, yes and no, because it's you never forget and it never gets easier, but it gets easier to deal and easier
Mm,
to live your life. And I think that there are a lot of moments where I definitely do honor my mother's memory, and there are things that I can look back on now and listen to and be okay.
yeah,
And it took a long time to get there because I was very angry and I was very sad, and there
yeah,
were so many emotions that came with it. But I think once you let yourself feel those, and then you really, I guess, get perspective, then it gets easier. And it's just, I think that's the bitch of it, because it's like there's no one way to do it, and so like you almost want an instruction manual, but everybody's way of doing things is quite different, and what works for me doesn't work for you, and it's just, I think you kind of want it to just like, okay, suddenly I'm going to be okay and everything's going to be great.
oh
But,
yeah,
it's just the not knowing. And
yeah,
I'm a bit of a control freak. So, like, going into the unknown and not knowing where things are, how you're going to feel from one day to the next is just, it's nerve wracking for me.
yeah, uh, absolutely. I can feel that 100%.
Yeah.
I know that I remember a lot of people when it all first happened, a lot of people were like, you have to just feel it because if you don't feel it, grief is going to just make you its bitch. And,
Oh, yeah.
in 20 years, you'll be fucking miserable. And I said, okay, yeah, no, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to white knuckle through it and I'm going to feel it. And like,
Yeah.
I'll cry when I have to. And then in 2 months, I'll be good.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Which, was
Yeah.
not the case. And, the next thing I
Right.
know, I'm taking my clothes off and things like that for the masses. But
Right.
You know,
Well, that's it's just the weird thing is you just don't know when you're going to feel it, and it's also unexpected, and it can hit you a couple months from now, it can hit you years from now, and
yeah,
it's just like
yeah,
it just depends, and it's you just never know.
you never know. And it's always when you least expect it, you know?
Yes.
It's always like I could talk about my mom for hours and be fine. And then I'll go home and it'll just be like one thing and I'll just have a breakdown,
Oh
like
yeah.
of just like
Oh yeah.
completely unrelated. And it's just,
Yeah.
it's wild. But it's also really, unfortunately, it's also really beautiful in its own way because
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where it's like, I am a thinking, feeling person, and this is a part of the grand invitation of humanity. So,
Right.
you know, you got to keep that in mind, I guess, as, you know, stupid as it sounds.
No, it's not stupid at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it it's just crazy to
Yeah.
me. That's the best way.
It
I don't
really
know.
is. It really is. It's just, it's little glimpses of momentary insanity. That's
Yeah.
the only way that I can really describe it. Because it's
But
just when I get so overcome, I don't feel like myself. Like I feel like part of me like detaches from my body, you know,
right.
and just kind of goes a little insane and kind of resorts back to the hedonistic
Yeah.
lifestyle that I used to
Yeah.
have. And, you know, um, yeah, it's really interesting,
But
but you know,
but we're never going to survive unless we get a little crazy, you know?
right?
I mean, I know it's not, it's a cover,
It's a cover,
but
but
I'm
it's a
thinking of Alanis's version.
yes, of course. Same.
Um, that's what's helpful though, because it's like you're in this crazy ship with other crazy people, and
Yeah,
that's how you survive.
it is.
Because it's the sane people who don't know what you're going through and are completely have it together. I mean, I don't know if anybody really has it all together, but
No.
they're degrees.
Yeah. Third degrees,
But
sure.
like attracts like, obviously, and so it's obviously easier to deal with people who can relate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, one of the things that I always work towards, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I'm sharing, no matter what form the creativity takes, is just the shared humanity, you know?
Right.
And whether that's pain or pleasure or
Or
sexuality
both.
or, yeah, or both, or, just waxing poetic about life, it's all just shared humanity. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
all just, and whether you're gay, straight, by the whole spectrum, or, just the whole spectrum of humanity in general, it's shared experiences. Just, it's the same destination, but we all just take different routes to it, you know?
Right. It's
And
like what is it, that quote, all paths lead to God.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, because it is basically, true about, you know, a lot of humanity is reflected in religion, and
Mhm.
it's true that there are things that separate us, there are things that separate religions, but at the end of the day, there's a common through line that just connects it all and makes sense,
Yeah.
and even though I don't really subscribe to a lot of religious beliefs, it there is a lot of humanity reflected in religion, especially in the history of religion.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that at the end of the day, it's the same destination. We're all getting to the same place, but we're just
Right.
taking routes to get there. And what that is just discovering what it is to be human, what it is to be alive, what it is
Right.
to be a thinking, feeling machine, and there's a lot of there's a lot of power in that, there's a lot of healing in that, there's a lot of transgression in that, but it's all the same thing to me, if that makes sense.
And it's all about where and when you decide to get off.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, Really. Uh,
Hee hee.
in multiple ways.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
See, I was raised by Madonna, so you got to
yeah.
have those
Well, I mean, same.
quips.
You know, I
Yeah.
wasn't raised by Madonna. I came to her later in life, but one of the things that has always drawn me to Madonna is how similar we um, we look at our role in the world. You know,
Right.
and how we both express ourselves and how we don't. You know, I always say that I really thank Madonna for teaching me how to weaponize the fire inside of me. You know,
Oh yeah.
rather than keeping it. You know, I remember I delivered a lecture a few years ago on the work of Albert Camus, and I remember I was so nervous and I was so afraid of fucking up that I wrote on my notes in big, like blue Sharpie. I wrote, "Even Madonna embarrasses herself."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
you know, and I looked at it several times during the lecture, and it went really well. But you know, it is good to know that like even your people that you identify with so much fuck up and make mistakes, and you know, that's everyday life for me. I'm sure later today I'll make some kind of embarrassing gaffe publicly or something, and that's it.
Well, but I think that humility is just a way of keeping you grounded.
Yeah, sure.
Um, I need humility. I need to be humbled because unfortunately the people when you're in that headspace and you're not there and you're just you're just kind of got your nose in the air, and that's
Yeah,
when you invite all these issues to happen,
yeah,
and it's when you think that you're unfallible and you're the shit is when life comes in and just smacks you over the head.
sure does. Yeah, I'm
It's like,
trying to get much better at not humbling myself too much,
yeah,
because a lot of times I
well,
have.
life will do that plenty, so you
Yeah,
don't even need to
same.
do that.
Well, my whole thing is that like I'm gonna beat you to the punch. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I am going
yeah,
to make jokes about myself, and I'm going to call myself out on my bullshit, and I'm also going to humble myself because I'm not gonna let you do it to me. You know? And I mean
right.
like you should see my DMs, okay? People love to humble me like every 5 minutes. but
Oy.
but you know, I usually when I get those kinds of messages, I just go, "Yeah, I know, thanks. Thanks
Yeah,
for pointing it out." You know, but I'm trying to kind of be a little bit more cocky and assertive.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and kind of not have to justify myself so hard. You know,
yeah.
but we'll see. Because so far I'm failing.
Oh, don't say that. You're
Yeah,
not failing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know,
You're
well,
just living.
yeah. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, there's always room to fall apart too. So, I mean, it's all in the grand scheme of things, you're going to learn from it. It's just you do you in your own time and, make mistakes, learn, and then just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you know, I think based on what we were talking about today and everything of that, you are a perfect example of that. I think we're both perfect examples of that. You know, that
Yeah.
you have to just you have to learn how to take it and grow and just keep going.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm into that.
Amen. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this is a perfect time to wrap it up. I know it's like 1:30 and you gotta think.
Yeah, I have multiple things, but you know,
I have things too,
being
but
late is not new for me, so it's fine.
I'm so glad that we did this. I
Yes,
knew this
me
would
too.
be a good
Oh,
conversation.
I hope so. I hope you're happy with it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I
Well, I
hope you
mean,
don't
I
regret asking me.
No, not at all. I
Yeah,
don't, and it's funny because it's like I always worry sometimes because it's like I talk to people, I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it, and then I'm like, what if I just press record and it's awful? I mean, I wouldn't obviously, share it with the world, but
yeah, of course.
it's never gone that way,
Yeah, and
and
whenever I do these things, I'm always just afraid that the whole conversation will be like, "Why do you post photos in your underwear?" It's just like, you know, read about it.
why wouldn't you? I don't know,
I mean,
and
also too, I think that goes right back to what we were just saying. I don't need to
yeah,
justify it. So,
exactly.
even though I do, because there is a point,
Well,
but
yeah, well, just stop justifying it. It's fine. It's your life, it's your body. This is how you're dealing with things, and this is how you choose to express yourself.
yeah, it's how I've always
So
chosen, and I'm not gonna stop now. So,
fuck them if they can't take a joke.
right, exactly. Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so
All right,
much. I
thank
will
you.
I will definitely talk to you soon.
Yes, absolutely. Take care.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.